host, and we have a wonderful evening planned for you tonight. Our theme for the year is 2020 Spiritual Vision, and our theme for this month, and this is the first Wednesday of the month, is mindfulness. Mindfulness. I'd like to say that word slow because it reminds me of what it means, you know, mindfulness. It just brings an instant calming to me, which I need from time to time. And I'm sure you'll be instantly calmed with our speaker tonight. I do want to let you know that our Wednesday night services are designed to be informal, intimate, and rich. And we have different speakers every Wednesday night. Some rotate on a schedule. Some just rotate at the department store trying to get in. You know, that's me, right? But back in the day when we could go to the department stores. But our schedule of speakers are very gifted, all of them. And some have different styles. The style that Jeff likes most for us to use is a satsang style, where the speaker speaks on a topic and then we have some type of sharing of a discussion with the audience. Some like to do a classroom lecture style, very much like what Reverend Francione does so wonderfully, and Reverend E. Christopher, when he speaks in the idea of being in a circle. So he has some interesting approaches in that way. Liza and I, when we do the contemplative meditations, it's very internal. And then some presenters like to have a lot of interactivity going on during their presentation. Our speaker tonight is one of our practitioners, and she's just terrific. She'll be speaking in a style that's kind of hybrid of classroom and satsang, and she always brings something special. Instant mindfulness is what we will experience tonight, I'm sure. Just so you know, our Zoom team does automatically mute you when you join the Wednesday night service, both your camera and your audio. That will allow us to improve the quality of the transmission. And our speaker tonight is Judith Roberts, and she's just terrific. I consider her a master teacher and a compassionate practitioner. She's a skilled orator. She's done Wednesday nights with us for a couple of years now. And one thing I always know when Judith speaks is I'll always take home a nugget of truth that I'll carry around with me and ponder and consider for quite a while. So she leaves a mark with me in my heart and in my pocket, where my nugget goes with me everywhere. Tonight we have a special person that's going to open us up in prayer by the request of our speaker, and that's been designated to Eliza Young, also a wonderful, kind, and wise practitioner, and my co-partner in Grime in the kitchen and in the facilities team. So Liza, if you would you begin us with prayer?
Sure. Okay. So I just like to start with a breath, as Judith was telling us about the breathing, because it brings us to this present moment in our physical bodies. And I'm claiming the presence of the One, for I know there is only one life. It is the life of God, and it is perfect. It is beauty and beautiful. And there is one mind, and it is the mind of God that we can use for mindfulness of any activity. And I know there's great good and peace and joy and love and excellence. All of these qualities of God are present here tonight. And I am one with this one, and everyone who is present here or reviewing it later is one with this one, because God is all there is. And so I speak my word and claim that Judith brings us her wisdom from her many experiences and from her studies and compilation of ideas about mindfulness. And I know that each one is blessed with her words and uplifted. And we have deep listening and a deep awareness of ourselves and our connection to each other, such as it is tonight. We are still connected with the one. And I am so grateful for this. I'm so grateful for this evening, knowing it is already done in the mind of God, and it is good and very good. So I give thanks. And I release my word to the law that says yes. And so it is.
And so it is.
And now back to Paul for a moment.
Yes, indeed. Thank you, Liza, so much for grounding us and setting the tone for our speaker tonight. As I said earlier, Judith Roberts is just terrific. I've so enjoyed working with her in many capacities here at the church. And I know she's just going to be terrific, and she's going to bring us a wonderful presentation. So Judith, I turn it over to you, and thank you so much for being willing to lead us tonight.
Thank you, Paul. And thank you for that lovely introduction. And Eliza, thank you for the beautiful prayer. So mindfulness. Reverend Jeff asked me to speak on mindfulness. And I want to say I don't consider myself an expert on mindfulness. I consider mindfulness to be a lifelong practice. And while I'm a longtime meditator, which I started meditating when I was 16, I don't consider myself an expert in mindfulness. And I'm learning, I'm continuing to learn. So it was really fun to put together this presentation because I went to a lot of sources and I also relied on my own experience. And I'm delighted to be able to share these with you. So I am going to be switching back and forth between a PowerPoint, and I'll be speaking while you see the PowerPoint, and then there are going to be times when I open it up for discussion, which means I'll close the PowerPoint and we'll be able to see each other again and converse. And so I'm going to go back and forth a couple of times. I'm going to start the PowerPoint now. So bear with me. I also want to give you a disclaimer that this is my first time teaching via Zoom. So I know I have a lot of backup, a lot of support, but if we run into some technical difficulties, just bear with us. We'll sort it out. So now I'm going to share my screen and my PowerPoint. So already, I'm not, oh, I know what I need to do here. I just remembered from practicing this morning. Okay, so this is my topic is mindfulness, and the reason I chose especially the image on the left with the ladybug and the drops of dew, drops of water, is that this is the type of thing that we could so easily pass by. We could be taking a walk in nature and not even notice this when it's right in front of us. So there are different types of mindfulness, and we're going to come to those, but mindfulness in nature is one of them. I'm going to now go to the next slide and show you what we're going to cover in this talk today. We're going to talk about what mindfulness is, look at some definitions of mindfulness and types of mindfulness, and then talk about the benefits of mindfulness and the consequences of not being mindful. And I'm going to share with you some of my thoughts on this and experiences, and invite you to share some of your thoughts on this, your experiences, the consequences of not being mindful. We're going to do a mindfulness meditation after that. It's a short meditation, but it's an experiential one for those of you who didn't participate in the meditation prior to the talk. It'll give you a taste. And then I think that we're in such a critical time now with COVID-19, with our political situation and our protests and racial injustice being so highlighted and so in our awareness, um, and internationally, protests going on in Europe and in New Zealand. I want to open this up at the end with a section that I'm calling Meeting This Moment with Mindfulness. You know, Gavin Newsom, I listen to his talks, his updates every day when he gives them, and he always uses the phrase "meeting this moment," and I like it. So I think it would be good to have a conversation about meeting this moment with mindfulness, and so that's another time when I'm going to open it up to you to share your thoughts. So, what is mindfulness? It's paying attention, it's focusing. And I read a definition that I really liked by a woman, Nina Smiley, Dr. Nina Smiley, who is giving mindfulness talks online, actually mindfulness classes online, YouTube classes. And she said that mindfulness is being present in the moment in a skillful way. I really liked that. It's short and it's rich. So there are types of mindfulness. We can exercise mindfulness in eating and drinking, exercise mindfulness in nature and walking in nature, or um, however we do it. It might be just sitting, finding a spot and sitting and watching and noticing. We can exercise mindfulness in witnessing our thoughts without judging, editing, or analyzing, just noticing them. We can exercise mindfulness by following our breath, which we experienced earlier if you participated in the meditation before the talk. We can exercise mindfulness in just being aware of body sensations. And one thing that happened for me when we were practicing the meditation before the talk, when we did the section on noticing the sensations in the body, I noticed something I hadn't been aware of, and that's that I was holding tension in my shoulders. And so as I noticed that tension, I just relaxed and dropped my shoulders. But I think if I hadn't done that short meditation practice of body awareness, I might have gone through this whole talk holding that tension in my shoulders. And there's a mindfulness exercise that can be approaching uncertainty with mindfulness. And Nina Simone has a YouTube about that. So Thich Nhat Hanh is a wonderful Buddhist teacher, and he says mindfulness is the miracle which can call back in a flash our dispersed mind and restore it to wholeness so that we can live each moment. And I put the underline under restore it to wholeness, because we're talking now, we're moving into the benefits of mindfulness. And restoring ourselves, restoring our mind to wholeness is certainly one of the benefits of mindfulness. I also like the quote from Jon Kabat-Zinn, who said, when you pay attention to boredom, it gets unbelievably interesting. And I just loved that because I have experienced that. It reminds me of one time I don't know if this was in a documentary. Well, I know it wasn't a cartoon. It was real people who were somewhere like in the Midwest sitting on their porch on a farm, just sitting there on the porch. And somebody asked them what they were doing. And they said, watching the grass grow. And I just love that because that's an example of mindfulness, of just sitting and enjoying what is before us, what is in front of us. Ernest Holmes, the founder of our philosophy of science of mind, says that thoughts are things. And as we talk about the benefits of mindfulness, I think it's important to talk about our thoughts, which, we have a mindfulness practice of observing and witnessing our thoughts. But if thoughts become things, it's really important to notice and realize and understand what our thoughts are. So many of our thoughts are coming from the subconscious mind, or they're coming from the race consciousness. And when we bring them into awareness, when we bring them to the fore, then we have the opportunity to shift them if they're not serving us. And that brings me to the next quote by Charnanand, who is he was an Indian Mahatma, an Indian sadhu that I knew in my early years. He's still alive. And he said, and this, I think he borrowed this from someone, but I don't know who he borrowed it from, so I'm attributing it to him. But he said, sow a thought, reap an action. Sow an action, reap a habit. Sow a habit, reap a destiny. So it all starts with the thought. And when we become conscious of our thoughts, mindful of our thoughts, again, if they're not serving us and if they're not serving humanity, once they're conscious, we have the opportunity to change them, to shift them, so that now we can have a new destiny. So other benefits of mindfulness, these are a little bit more on the emotional and physical side, but research bears out that mindfulness alleviates depression, anxiety, pain, and stress, that it boosts mood and perception, that actually serotonin, dopamine, and endorphins are released during mindfulness meditation, that mindfulness shrinks fight or flight. It shrinks the fight or flight center in the brain, and fight or flight produce stress chemicals. So if this center of fight or flight is reduced, less stress. Blood pressure can drop with mindfulness meditation, and we can experience better digestion. I took all of these from a Time magazine special edition on mindfulness, and the research behind all of these is presented there. It's quoted there. So if anybody wants to learn about the research behind these statements, I could get those for you. The consequences of unmindfulness. Our culture doesn't support mindfulness. We're rewarded for being good at multitasking. We're rewarded for being good at multitasking in business, in our families, with children. We do a lot of things at the same time. We do a lot on devices at the same time, and sometimes it gets really out of control. I have a colleague at work. I was in a meeting with him recently, and this was before shelter in place, and we were in a boardroom meeting, and he kept checking his watch, just over and over and over again, every couple seconds checking his watch. And I finally said, we have a clock on the wall. Do you need to keep checking the time so often? And he said, oh, I'm not checking the time. This is a smartwatch, and it lets me know when somebody's trying to reach me. You know, like a call somebody on, he's a manager, somebody on his team is trying to reach him. So he just kept checking and checking and checking to see, you know, if somebody needed to reach him. And then occasionally he'd hit something and, you know, and I was just kind of floored, because that level of connectedness, um, you know, our minds are so full and so distracted. I heard somebody, she's a young mother who spoke at our Mile High Center in Denver about mindfulness. I listened to part of her YouTube, and she said, um, let's see, I lost my train of thought. That's funny. Um, she was just talking about, oh yeah, how distracted we are. You know, how you know, it's this device and that device and this device and that device, and and basically what I just said, how encouraged we are to be connected all the time, when actually we can receive a lot of benefit from disconnecting. Um, so this quote is another one from Time. Many of us, myself included, persistently wear our overstimulation as a badge of honor because we're rewarded for it. But it isn't necessarily a badge of honor. It's a paradigm shift that we can make. So, consequences of unmindfulness. I'm going to give a few examples of my own, and then I'm going to stop sharing my PowerPoint and ask you for a few examples of your own and consequences of unmindfulness that you have. So I live in the Oakland Hills, and I recently went for a walk up in Redwood Park, and I parked my car there, and I was driving down the hill toward my house, and the next thing I knew, I was at Safeway down at the bottom of the hill. And I thought, wait a minute, did I decide to come to Safeway? And I realized that I had had a thought about some things I needed to pick up at the store, but I didn't remember deciding that I needed to go to Safeway. But somehow I programmed my mind, and then I was thinking about other things, and the next thing I knew, I was at Safeway. And there was no harm done, no danger, but I was, you know, I'm a careful driver. There was no harm done in terms of my driving or anything, but it's just an example of not being conscious. And then some of my other examples is sometimes I lose things, and I lose them because I'm doing too many things at the same time. I set something down and I don't remember where I put it. Or I'm doing a lot of tasks at home and I go upstairs, and then I'm upstairs and I'm asking myself, why did I come upstairs? I'm sure some of you can relate to this. So I'm going to close my, and this picture here, this guy, you know, I liked him because he looks like he's stuck, he's confused. And that can be the result of unmindfulness, of just like not knowing what's next. Where do I go from here? He's in a maze. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen and invite you to share some of your examples. So now I need to find my stop share button, stop share. And now I'm going to gallery view. And I'd like for you to either raise your hand like this, or if you know how to raise the little hand, you know, go to participants and then raise the hand electronically, do that. And Peggy's going to help me facilitate who to call on. So would anyone like to share some of the consequences you're aware of being unmindful? You might need it. Oh, who's that? Eliza?
Lisa. Well, what came to me was that when I'm angry and I express it without mindfulness, I yell. My voice gets lots louder, and I'm not even aware of it. That's how I know that I'm not mindful. There are times when I choose to raise my volume, but there are times where people have said to me, "You don't have to yell at me. Can you keep it down a little bit?" And so I'm just aware of that. When my emotions get stirred up and I haven't been meditating on that day, then sometimes I express myself in a way that's more attacking and more violent, and I don't want to do that. So that's one example.
Yeah, that is a good example. Yeah, thank you, Eliza.
Nice to meet you, Judith.
Hi, Joyce. Yes.
How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
So much. It's beautiful. One of the ways that I, when I'm very inattentive, I'm hurrying, and I have 55 million things to do, and I try to do them all. I put, I have a cup of coffee, and I'm rushing around the house trying to get something done with a cup of coffee in my hand. And, one thing after another, it just has gotten to the point, not now, but when I was younger, I learned that hurry was the slowest way of getting there for me.
Wow.
And so it was great to learn that. So when I get in a hurry now, I learn to sit down and take a couple breaths and then go on my way. But every once in a while, I can have an off day where many things get kind of, you lose your keys. Yesterday, I misplaced my keys twice. So that tells you that I was going through a lot of stuff. But, and on the phone with a friend from back east who was here in California and wanted to see me. So it was just, how do I coordinate all this time? But, once I sat down, and I love divine order. Divine order for me works so well after I just sort of get myself together. So those are just some of the things that I go through whenever, or I have gone through. I keep wanting to remember, I remember rather than I forget those kinds of benefits to meditation, to mindfulness. So anyhow, thank you very much for letting me share.
Well, thank you, Joyce. And I think what you said at the beginning could be a bumper sticker. It says that hurrying is my slowest way to get somewhere.
Yeah, I read that.
It's really great. I mean, it's one of those pithy truths that, I mean, it's really, thank you for that.
You're welcome. It's not original to me. I somewhere years ago, I read something like that. And that may not be the words may not be exact, but they're very similar. So
it's really good.
Okay.
It's really good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thank you. Anyone else?
Laura Klein. Laura? Unmute yourself, Laura.
Hi.
Hi.
Oh, hi, Laura.
Hi there. Hi. Thank you for this topic. So one thing that comes to mind in terms of the consequences of not being mindful that I've been experiencing lately is eating too much. So I often will have my dinner while I'm like watching a show or something, and then I don't realize until after I'm all done that I ate way too much and I'm really full. And so I think that and also it's like I don't enjoy my food as much if I'm not being mindful. And so those times when I I'm not doing other stuff, but I'm just like enjoying my food. Like number one, I enjoy it a lot more. And then number two, I can really pay attention to if I'm getting full or not. So that's just the one thing that's like kind of present for me right now.
Yeah, I can relate to that, and I've had the same thing, and in initially with shelter in place, I way overate, and then got to the point where this isn't, I don't feel good, and this isn't serving me, and now I'm being very mindful about eating and exercise, and what a difference it makes. but it's so
Yeah.
easy. It's so easy to happen. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Yeah, hi, it's Bonnie. I
Hi,
was
Bonnie.
Hi. I was going to say the only one that I can think of that really causes me the most distress is that when I am texting and I send the wrong text to the wrong person and not realizing it until the person texts it like, what? Who is this? So that's my key that I know, oh, you need to slow down. You need to just slow down, because that's when it happens if I'm hurrying and sending off several texts. So that's it. And I'm sure that you can relate to that.
You're not alone in that. No, you're not alone in that. I've done that. Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely. Because my attention is divided.
Yes, yes.
Yeah,
Thank you, Judith. Good topic. Thank you.
yeah, you're welcome. Let's do one more and then we'll move on. Does anyone else like to share a consequence of being unmindful?
Maureen?
Oh, Maureen?
Hi, yeah. Um, One thing is I'll hurt myself. Like I won't be paying attention and I'll like trip on something or cut myself when I'm cutting vegetables or something like that. So just not being mindful of what I'm doing, just kind of going through the motions, it definitely can be dangerous if you're not mindful.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Maureen. And I kind of to reiterate some of these, I made a list. One of them was unsafety, which is what you're talking about, Maureen. You hurt yourself. It could be during driving. It could be just walking and not watching where you're going. But not being safe can result from unmindfulness. Being inefficient can result from unmindfulness. Being unclear and making poor decisions can result from unmindfulness. Not getting enough sleep is another one. Losing things and having I know I do this, and I would guess some of you do too. Having to ask someone to repeat themselves in a conversation because I checked out. My mind went somewhere else for a moment while they were speaking, and I missed something, and I missed something important. And so then I bring myself back, and I have to ask them, especially if it's a story, and I have to say, I'm sorry, I missed that part. Could you say it again? So there are lots and lots of consequences, and we've probably only touched the tip of the iceberg, but I'm sure we can all relate, because at some time in our lives we're doing too much or we're checked out, and things happen as a result that are not serving us and are not serving others. So now I'd like to lead you in a short meditation. I'm going to start sharing my screen again, and but we will come back to this gallery and after the meditation. So in this meditation, and I'm not seeing again where to.
Yeah, slideshow. You want to go slideshow?
Oh, yes,
Right there.
thank you.
Uh-huh.
Thank you. Oh, whoops, I went too far.
Oh,
Sorry.
that's all right.
Here it is. This is the one I want. Okay,
There
here
you
we go. Thank you. Thank you. So in this meditation, this is a meditation that I found from Malika Chopra, who is Deepak Chopra's daughter, who teaches mindfulness and apparently teaches around the world. This meditation is going to be short, 5 minutes or less. But let's just again sit quietly, place your feet flat on the floor if you're sitting. Get comfortable. And I'll lead you through this. So take a few minutes and just go into some deep breathing. Deep, long breaths. Inhaling slowly, exhaling slowly. Not trying to control your breath and not trying to control anything. Just letting it flow and letting its rhythm relax you. And ask yourself the following questions. Don't feel the need to answer the questions, just take time to experience what comes to you when you ask. The first question is, who am I? Who am I? The second question is, what do I want? What do I want? The third question is, how can I serve? How can I serve? And the fourth and last question is, what does the universe want from me? What does the universe want from me? So I'd like to invite you to come back into your normal rhythm, your normal breath, your normal consciousness. And I'd like to invite you to share with us your thoughts on meeting the moment meeting the moment that we're in with mindfulness. And what I mean by meeting the moment, as I said in the beginning, I love it when I listen to Gavin Newsom giving his updates, and he talks about meeting this moment, that this is how we are meeting this moment. We're in an incredible time. We're in a critical time. We're in a vital time. And I want to invite you to share your thoughts on how to meet this moment. So again, I'm going to stop sharing my screen and come back to the gallery view and invite you to share what are your thoughts about how to meet this moment, and did something come up for you in the meditation that might be relevant to meeting this moment? Take your time. And again, raise your hand or, oh, Freya?
Funny things on here. Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. When I think of mindfulness and being present, it's about awareness. And I was surprised when you asked those questions. Immediate answers came. I mean, I didn't have time to think of answers. They just showed up. So when I'm really being mindful, that can happen when my mind's not all cluttered with other things. And this has more to do with that first round of questions. When I'm upset about something, and I get angry very seldom, but when I do, and then in the middle of the anger, since it's unusual, I say to myself, "Oh, you're acting very angry." Amen. I see myself doing it, and in the moment, I mostly cannot change course, but being aware and mindful helps it show up differently next time, or a little less. It's makes it easier in the future if I can, and I call it footnoting, because I'm being aware, even though in that moment I cannot change it doesn't feel like I could change my behavior, and it's helped me a lot. And I've got to tell one little joke. I heard about a monk who was eating breakfast, and the student was there, and the monk was reading the newspaper while he was eating his breakfast. And the student asked about that, and the monk said, "I'm being mindful, eating and reading."
At the same time.
Right.
That's cute.
So,
Thank you.
anyway, thank you very
Thank
much.
you, Freya. Anyone else have thoughts about meeting the moment that we're in? And I mean societally. I mean with the pandemic, and with the what's happening with our African American, I mean with our political, with our outrage, with our police brutality that we're all seeing. I just wonder if you have any thoughts about how to meet the moment we're in with mindfulness.
Hi, Judith. This is Peggy.
Hi, Peggy.
You know, I think it's important. What came to my mind is calmness. Try to try your best to stay as calm and as centered in oneself. The other thing that came to my mind is the unification of all of us. We're all one with each other. And so the pain that we may feel is the pain of another. We don't have to know them. I mean, I can cry at a commercial on TV, seeing somebody hurt, or a dog or a cat being in nobody's adopting them. But to think about what's going on, and that is this terrible, I call it a disease of racism, and I think it's embedded in almost in our American DNA. And so I really depend upon my belief systems, my own personal belief systems, to hold me in some kind of position of calmness. It doesn't mean that I don't feel other things: anger, frustration, curiosity, bewilderment, all kinds of, such a kaleidoscope of emotions. But I always end up saying, well, take a deep breath, center yourself, and get calm. Maybe sometimes I might want to write a little bit in my journal, or pick up the phone and talk to a friend. And I always think about voting. If I want to change some things, I want to vote. And then sometimes I actually think about that I have no impact whatsoever. So I go the full circle, and then I end up always coming back to the calm and centeredness and the belief that I depend upon to hold me on the ground. Thank you, Judith. It's a good conversation. Thank you for bringing up the topic.
Thank you, Peggy.
Hi, this is TC.
Hi, TC.
What I've been doing on social media, I follow a lot of really kick-ass Black activist women. Some are, well, they're all activists because they're talking about their experiences. And so it's been really intense for the last several days. But what I've been doing is shutting up and retweeting and sharing posts from Black voices. And that's, I think, what there was a kind of failed thing on Twitter and Facebook, where you're supposed to black yourself out. And then that got it was a mess. So I took my profile off. But the whole idea behind that is we don't hear enough Black voices. We don't listen to what they're saying. And so I think that my role right now is to amplify that as much as possible. And when I run across a feed that's all of white people, and it seems like somebody might be open to learning something, I will make a comment about, why all lives matter is, kind of bullshit. And, it's like that people are like, but all lives, it's like, okay, so here is why you need to understand that Black Lives Matter is critical at this point. But only when I'm, it's like arguing with racists is pretty useless. So I don't even engage in that. But when people seem like they may be open to it, I'll add something. But other than that, I need to school other white people when I can, who just, because racism is so incredibly systemic and goes so incredibly deep, there are so many people who don't even understand what they're doing is racist. For example, a friend of mine from Wisconsin posted this very, very long post on Facebook about this woman, she's 46 years old. She's never really talked to any Black people, and a washing machine repairman came to her house. And so she started talking to him, and she was asking him questions. And you know, and so he explained to her what his experience is. And so in her post, she went to great lengths to tell us what his certification was and how qualified he was to do the job and all of this. And it's like, okay, so that's a baby step in the right direction. But the man walked into your house to do a job, and you're asking him to do all this emotional lifting. And this is something that I'm really trying to um, be aware of is, you know, it's like when you ask Black people to talk about racism, how just exhausting that is for them. And it's not their job to educate you. There are resources, there are books you can Google, you know, like you can teach yourself. And, you know, it's like that man's going to fix probably 4 or 5 washing machines. And is he supposed to add that emotional burden on every time he walks into the house? You know, so, and that's like systemic racism. That is something that's so deep that people don't even see it. Because then on the feed with, you know, people were jumping in, not at my comment necessarily, but they were like defending her. It's like, oh, you people are piling on this woman and she's just trying to do the right thing. And it's like, it's deeper than that, you know? I mean, this is, and I think if there's any good that's going to come out of this, it's that a whole lot of white people are going to understand what, or, you know, not that we can experientially understand, but understand a little bit about the effect that systemic racism has on the entire country. So that's where I am.
Yeah, thank you. A friend last night said that Michael Beckwith said, and I didn't hear this personally, I think it's probably in one of his talks and can go back and listen to it, but that he said that only white people can end racism. And
Absolutely.
that means becoming more conscious, you know, becoming accountable, becoming active, you know, proactive, each of us in our own way, each of us in the way we're called to. But yeah, thank you, TC. Let's have one more person before we close. Would anyone else like to speak to this?
Maureen?
Maureen already spoke, I think. Didn't you, Maureen?
I thought I saw her earlier again.
Yeah, but I mean, if you want someone else to talk, then that's fine.
Well, let's see if there's anyone else, and then Maureen, if not, then yeah, then go ahead. But would anyone else like to speak to this? Go ahead, Maureen.
Oh, hi. So my video is locked, but that's okay. So for me, it's very similar to what TC was saying, but specifically, I've had ever since the protests started, the looting started, I have had 2 close friends that one of them that I talk to regularly, and then one of them is a high school friend that reached out to me today after a comment I made on social media. So basically what I'm meeting the moment is I am being active and posting and not withholding my thoughts about it, because normally I do not get political, or, you know, I try to respect people's views, but in light of this situation, I have chosen not to. I've chosen to really express myself, and I want to use that to educate people and to talk with people, and it has worked. So like I said, my good friend, you know, talked for hours about this. I can't say I changed his mind, but I can say that I definitely influenced his thoughts. He was open to listening. And then my high school friend, who I don't talk to very often, who's in Illinois, I made one comment on her post, and she's like, can we talk today via Zoom? And I had a 2-hour conversation, and she said, based off of the conversation that we had, that she was going to rethink her thoughts about what was going on. And I must say that felt really, really good. And it helped me to feel empowered in what I feel to be right, is speaking out and speaking up.
Thank you, Maureen. I want to leave with one thought as I was contemplating this yesterday or at some point, you know, and how to hold this and how can I contribute. You know, there's action and activism and speaking to people. There's also prayer, which Reverend Oliver Eloise talked about last Wednesday. And what came to me was Greg Braden, Secrets of the Lost Mode of Prayer, where he says to bless the perpetrators, bless the victims, and bless everyone who was a witness, everyone who's impacted, which is everybody. And, you know, it can be hard to want to bless the perpetrators. And we are one, and they are in pain as well. And they are in separation as well. So that, you know, that philosophy of Greg Braden's really came home to me the other day. I mean, it resonated with me to bless the perpetrators, bless the victims, and bless all of the witnesses, which is raising us all up to another level in our hearts and in our prayers and in our energetic field. That's what we have to do. We have to rise. We have to rise up in more ways than one. So with that, I'm going to go back to my PowerPoint and thank you all for participating and then turn it over to Paul. So just bear with me for a minute. And this is my last slide, thanking you. Thank you so much for joining us, for participating, for sharing your hearts, for sharing your open-heartedness, and enriching all of us. Thank you. So, Paul.
Yes, ma'am. Wow, everybody. We thank you, Judith. You laid a lot of nuggets on the table tonight. But first of all, for all of us that are out there, shall we applaud either by showing or using our symbol? Thank you, Judith, for sharing your wisdom. As always, you never fail to deliver. There we go. I would like to just, if I may, take a minute to recap some of the pieces that, the nuggets that I'm going to take from your talk to acknowledge what you brought across. I'd like to go back to that sow a thought, reap an action, sow an action, reap a habit, sow a habit, reap a destiny. And tie that into what Reverend E said. Last month, we spent the whole month on listening to the heart. And we were applying it to the pandemic. And then Mr. Floyd has taken the pandemic and put that on the 6th page of the newspaper single-handedly, individually. Mm-hmm. He has changed the world through that action and is reaping a destiny. And I remember what she said last week when she said, listen to your heart and remember that you were born to bring a solution. So when we did our meditation tonight, which was the question one, the last question was, what does the universe want from you? And what came up for me was be a space where goodness prevails. Mm. Mm. And I'm going from my heart into mindfulness now, which is a new direction from last month, and realizing that individual actions right?
Mm-hmm.
A thought goes to an action goes to a habit, and a habit goes to a destiny. Where two or more of us are joined in prayer, as you said, which I think is a terrific tool, I want to say ammunition, a resource, and our faith here at the center is all about recognizing the power of that thought, the power of our word, and the power of our prayer. And where more than one of us gathered together, it multiplies the power of that thought that turns into the action, that turns into the habit, that turns into the destiny. And I think I'm comforted in your conversation tonight around that whole progressive way of movement, and the fact that we have all of our teachings here at the center, and our band of practitioners, and our wonderful staff ministers, and a lovely place to come to where we can act as a community to change the world, to be the space where goodness prevails. So I that's my nugget that I'm taking with me from what you presented tonight. And I will dwell on that for a long time. I want to just take a minute and realize it's more than, for me, it's even greater than a racist, worldly situation. This is an international action that's going on right now. And already we've had resolution today brought on by all of the civil distress. I won't say unrest, distress. That's the many voices coming together, and justice is just starting to come up out of the ground today with the change in the charges. And it's greater for me because Mr. Floyd's action symbolizes a loss, an unjust loss. He was a father, and he was a brother and a son, an uncle, and that's a devastating loss for those folks around him. So my heart is being mindful of their loss, and I just hold them in a space of love and comfort during this time, because I know it's not easy to lose a loved one. And I think that's what's rocking our worlds now. So I'm just asking us as a community, from laity perspective, that we pray for his family, because he has single-handedly shifted the conversation hugely. What a destiny. And I'm just holding ground for his family as they release him during this time. I think that's important. So thank you for that. I'm going to move to announcements, not so many tonight. And thank you for letting me share that. I think we have a wonderful space in our community to do great things. And Judith, you brought great things tonight.
Thank you, Paul. And thank you for sharing. That was so heartfelt. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, business. If anyone is having trouble entering Zoom lately, that's because they've released an upgrade. So if you had trouble tonight, or if you've had trouble recently, you may need to download the latest version of Zoom. Constance asked me to remind everybody, and you can get that at zoom.us/download. It also comes up when you sign in to remind you to get the latest copy if you haven't, and it's an easy click download from there. But if you've been having trouble, they've made upgrades. zoom.us/download. Next Wednesday night is Reverend Jeff, and he'll be speaking on our topic of mindfulness and continue the discussion. That's at 6:30 for meditation, 7 o'clock. Boy, do we need you, Judith, and we need some Reverend Jeff. So we've got something wonderful to look forward to for next Wednesday. On Sunday is our beloved Reverend Jerry Carter. She'll be speaking about mindful intentions. All the medicine we need is coming right out of these gates in the next couple of days. Service is at 10 a.m. I'm sorry, meditation is at 10 and service is at 10:30 if you'd like to listen to Reverend Jerry. We have a couple of drop-in events coming up on Sunday, on June 7th, this coming Sunday. The Compassionate Attention to Loss Ministry. I believe Zoe is very a big part of that. They're meeting for a heartfelt discussion of grief. How much more timely can that be? Whether your grief is personal or for the state of the world, there is so much to grieve right now. The way beyond grief is to go through it with support. And that's a drop-in class, an event at 12:30 on Sunday. Also at 12:30 on Sunday is Reverend Jerry and the Women's Spiritual Transformation Group. Two wonderful resources, two powerful forces that will change the world. The CALM group and the Women's Spiritual Transformation Group. So those are Sunday at 12:30. Also, another tool that's available to you is the Science of Mind magazine. We still have copies for June available. They're free. They're in the courtyard. Just go through these gates and turn right, go all the way to the social hall. There's a table, a high table to the right of the social hall entry. You'll see a box, and that box will have the June Science of Mind available for you. They're free and they're complimentary from Linda Wyman in the bookstore. Also another wonderful tool that we have here at the center. As well, prayer with the practitioner. We spoke about the power of prayer tonight. We can put it into action after service on Sunday in our upper room in Zoom. Stay at the end of the service in Zoom and you will be given directions on how you can receive prayer with the practitioner. If you want to receive our weekly newsletter sent to your email, if you're not already getting it, you can sign up for it on our homepage at the website. On the banner on the left at the bottom, just enter your email address and press the submit button, and you'll start receiving it weekly with all of the information and events going on at the center directly into your email. If you're interested in using Breeze, our church's system for viewing your donations and looking at events and scheduling events and registering for classes, give Constance a call at the center, or you can reach her by email at constance@oaklandcsl.org. And finally, just remember that the Oakland Center has its own Village Facebook group. This private group will let you connect with villagers. Also, you can see our recorded Wednesday and Sunday services and special messages on our own Oakland Center for Spiritual Living YouTube channel. You can search for it in YouTube, Oakland Center for Spiritual Living. And we also have a direct link right on the home page. Remember, oaklandcsl.org is your information central during the shelter in place. You can get the Zoom information for all of our services, drop-in events, and workshops and events right on the homepage. I would be remiss if I didn't thank our Zoom team tonight, our master mistress of ceremonies behind the scenes, behind the curtain, the terrific Peggy Cotton, Peter Gum handling our PowerPoint, live from Portland, Oregon area, Anthony Prado and Alice Knudsen with our gatekeepers and our technicians behind the scene. Thank you, bless you all. It's a great comfort to know that you're there. One of the ways we can contribute at the center is donate. If you're wondering how we can do that, just go to our homepage. I'm doing our virtual offering right now, knowing that all of the blessings that we receive, both physical and financial, emotional, spiritual, in our hearts, mind, body, and soul, come through these gates, and we're grateful, and we push them right back out into the universe through these gates where it can even multiply and do even greater work. So if you're so inclined to donate financially, just go to the homepage. The homepage has a button where it says donate, opencsl.org. Press the button, enter the information, and submit it, and your donation will be gratefully received. I bless it and receive it. It's easy, it's safe, saves a lot of work for me, and I hope you'll find it easy to use as well. That's it for our offering. And lastly, but not leastly, I'm going to ask Eliza Young, one of our gifted practitioners, to close us out on prayer. And again, Judith, thank you so much for what you brought. And thank all of you for joining us tonight.
Paul?
Yes.
I just wanted to offer, I'm going to stay on afterwards and show Alice how to put her picture on the page. Somebody else wants to learn how to do that, you're welcome to stay.
Okay, for those that are proud of their picture, yes, stay. For I won't be. I'll keep my gates. But thank you, TC, as always, to the rescue in Zoom. She's the Zoom queen. We bow to you.
And I'd like to say one thing before we enjoy Eliza's prayer to close us out, and that is that the people who are praying after service in the virtual prayer room are practitioners and practitioners in training. Some of whom are on this Zoom tonight. So I didn't want to leave them out. Okay, Eliza.
Well, I was just thinking how normally I would tell people to have safe travels, but all of you are probably already at home. But for any of you who aren't. So, thank you so much, Judith. That was truly inspiring. And I have several nuggets, but I won't go over them like Paul did. So I'm just taking them home with me to chew on and pray on and enjoy. So let's all come together in the oneness that is Mother, Father, God, that is mindful, that is the one mind, that is joy and enjoyment and sweetness and creativity and loving kindness. All of this and so much more. It is our very breath that we breathe. It is our bodies, minds, and souls. That is who and what God is. And so we come together and give thanks for this wonderful evening. And we know that you are all blessed in the activities that you're going to after this. And you take with it the richness from this Wednesday evening, whether it's into the other room or just shifting in your chair. We know this was a lovely evening and we are so grateful for it. I'm grateful for the teachings and for the one mind that allows us to be open to more and more good. So I give thanks and I release it to the law that says it is done and we are all enriched, and it is so, and so it is.
And so it is.
So it is.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Liza. Thank you, Judith. If you all want to
thank you, Liza. Thank you, Judith.
Open up your mics and say yours. We'll take a few minutes to say hello to everybody that's remained before they go into their TC class. Bonnie, so good to see you, darling. Thank you.
Hello, everybody.